Hey mama, welcome to the One Income Family podcast. Have you ever thought about using a digital cash envelope system? Well, today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 reasons you should. Maybe you've thought that it would just be a lot of work, but what I have learned is that it's just as easy as utilizing a single account, but with many added benefits, especially when it comes to living on one income. So go grab that stroller, pop in your headphones, and let's dive in to what a digital cash envelope system can do for you. Do you find it hard to save or get out of debt? Are you constantly searching for ways to save money and live on a budget? Do you have big dreams only to be stopped by not sticking to your budget? Are you ready for financial freedom? Then you, mama, are in the right place. Welcome to the One Income Family podcast, where you will learn what it looks like to budget on one income, how to partner with God in your finances, how to budget in a way that's easy to stick to, and how to cut costs and save money, all so that you can start building wealth. It is my mission to equip you with these tools so that you can live in abundance regardless of the amount in your account. Hey, I'm Molly, a budget coach for stay-at-home moms, and I know what it's like to struggle on one income. I've lived paycheck to paycheck, relied on being frugal, and failed many budgets until I learned how to budget without tracking. This has allowed my family to pay off debt and build wealth all on one income. So, if you are ready for financial freedom, then go grab that stroller, plug in those headphones, and let's get to it. Hey mama, if you are serious about sticking to your budget, then listen in as I walk you through a budget checkup and all that it can do for you. When you get on a budget checkup with me, we get to hang out for an hour answering why it is that you struggle to stay on budget. After we figure that out, we will create what I call a budget overview. This is a monthly budget, but it's a recurring budget. So if everything stays the same, you don't have to set it up again, right? It's the same one over and over again. Unless you have extra income that comes in, then you have to disperse that, and that's what I call a paycheck budget, but that is further down the line. So back to the monthly overview. This is a monthly recurring budget that you just get to reuse over and over again. It helps you to be able to live stress-free on one income because you no longer are stuck in the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle because your bills are no longer coming out as they come out, right? You have a system in place that allows you to be able to spend every single dollar and put it in a place, and then your bills, you don't have to worry about taking it out as it comes. It is taken out equally out of each paycheck. And so that ends your feast and famine cycle, right? Your budget overview will also give you the ability to see how much money you have to put towards your financial goals, because as we sit down and we play this out, you get to decide what's important to you. You have a list of your priorities and you get to place that money where your priorities lie, right? Instead of where it just kind of ends up going. And so that just makes it so much easier to be able to reach your financial goals. It helps you to set a goal to lower your monthly spending cost if that's something that you want to do, because you can see what's going on. When you can see things, it's so much easier to make tweaks, because when you're just running by the cuff and you're trying to decide what's going on and you're thinking that maybe you're doing one thing, but in reality you're not, just being able to see something makes it so much easier to make those tweaks so that your budget is doing what you want it to do instead of it doing, or you doing what it wants you to do, right? So along with the call and the budget overview, you will also have 1 week worth of email or Facebook Messenger support. I know that when you show your budget overview to your husband, questions will come up, and I want to be there to give you that support, to help you through that, right? So go right now to calendly.com/Molly Bunnell and let's get started so that you can start sticking to your budget. Again, that's calendly.com/Molly with a Y, B as in boy, ENELL. Alrighty, so 5 truths or 5 reasons that you should start using a digital cash envelope system because it is so amazing, especially on one income. I know I'm a little biased because I really love this, but trust me when I say I have tried them all. I've tried almost every single system out there, and well, minus the physical cash envelope system because I'm not a big fan of cash. But every other type of budget that's out there, I have tried it, and I just never could figure out a way that I could stick to it. And mostly because I just really didn't like to track my finances, right? I'm not big into that. I couldn't find a system that really helped me. And so when I figured out this system, it made it so much easier for me. Like I was able to save money so much quicker, so much easier in ways that I never thought possible, right? Because, well, first I started out with a different type of system that had essentially me having different accounts. So it's kind of a mixture of 2 different types of systems, but just it introduced me to the digital cash envelope system. And again, like I said, I was able to save so much in areas that I never knew was possible, right? And so that is what I want to share with you today. That is what I am so excited to get to reveal to you is these 5 awesome truths and reasons that you should start using a digital cash envelope system because like I said, what I learned is that it was just so much easier to be able to save up my money, to be able to know where my money was, to be able to decide where my money needed to go, and to physically see it happening, right? And so before I give away too much of what my actual reasons are, because I've kind of already said a few of them, let's just dive into what those 5 things are, right? And so if you have a pen and paper, you can write these down or come back and just mull over them because they are such good things. They are going to open your eyes to what a digital cash envelope system even does for you, right? You think that it's just a tool and that it's just another way to budget, but it simply is so much more. And so let's dive into the first one, which is you get to see your budget in action. What I mean here is that the physical budget is not really a thing these days, right? Like what you get for your budget is just this picture, this plan on a screen, and seeing it in place is nice, but it's just like, I don't want to say a pipe dream, but it's an idea. It's what you think you should do, and then implementing it with simply just tracking how much is left in that category can be so difficult, especially when you're not good at getting into the budget every single day and tracking that stuff, right? If you're able to stay on top of it and stay motivated, then yeah, it's great. But sometimes that you can start that system and it just goes to the wayward side. But when you have a digital cash envelope system, or even a cash envelope system if you like the physical cash, you get the boundaries to keep your budget in place. You get the physical boundaries that help you to stay on budget because your budget is no longer simply a piece of paper. It's real and it's in action. Every single thing that you have, every category, maybe not every category, right? You can play with it, how many accounts that you want to open. But every category, at least every main category that you struggle with, has its own account, and you can see the daily limits on your bank account. And that was a game changer for both me and my husband. And it just made life so much easier not having to track every single little thing. Okay, so then the second thing is to play off that boundaries thing is that you do have physical boundaries in place. And it's not just you making sure that you are staying on track. There are things in your way that keep you from going over budget. You no longer are the one that has to tell yourself no. Your bank account will do it for you, whether there's money in there or not. If you want to get something else with that category, you physically have to transfer money into that account so that you can use that money. And then you know what you are taking away from and what you could possibly be harming to take away from that, right? It's so eye-opening to be able to see what's actually happening and force yourself to be mindful of the money that's happening, right? Because you have these boundaries that aren't just you slapping your own wrist saying, no, I'm not going to do that. Trying to hold yourself accountable, trying to have your husband hold yourself accountable. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, right? And so that is why this system is so amazing to have on your side, because you have those physical boundaries in place. Then moving on to the third thing, you don't have to track your finances simply to stay on budget. Like, that is so nice. Now, yes, if you compile a few of your categories together, then yeah, you have to have a system in place to know if you overspend and what it's going to affect and that kind of thing. For instance, in our family account, we have our groceries come out of that account and we have our eating out coming out of that account. So we take our groceries out first, and then whatever is left in that account is what we get to eat out on during that pay period, right? And so sometimes we have more because I'm able to be more frugal. Sometimes we have less because there are things that we need that come up that have to be taken care of, right? And I guess I should say that I also put what I call consumable items in my grocery budget. So those are like your toilet paper, your tissues, your hair soap, your laundry soap, your dish soap, that kind of stuff. That's also what I include in my food category, because it's going out. Like when I go and buy it, I buy it at the same time. Like I don't want to have to pull out two different cards and pay for it or do two separate transactions. Like that's just a hassle for me. I've tried it, didn't like it, so I just lump it all together. And so that's why sometimes more comes out and less comes out, and I have that little buffer in there, and whatever's left over in that account is what we get to eat out on or do fun family activities on. And so that is why it's so nice. Like I have a system in place. I don't have to physically track those things together, because I know that once the groceries are out, whatever's left over is what I get to play with, right? And so sometimes you still have to track some things. Like if you lump all of your savings together, you'll want to track all that, because if you lump it all together, you're able to build interest quicker, right? And so you do want to track that stuff. And there are things, like I said, that you have to track, but simply to stay on budget with your monthly expenses, you don't have to worry about tracking it. You don't have to worry about every time you make an expense going and writing it down, because you know how much is left in that account, because once it hits zero, it's zero, right? And that is so nice. Like that was my aha moment, my saving grace. I was just like, oh my gosh, I love this. I don't have to track every single thing, because I could not find a system that I liked. I tried apps. I tried the physical thing. I've tried doing it through a spreadsheet, and I just could not get it figured out, right? Couldn't figure out a system that I like. So the digital cash envelope system is so nice in that, for that reason. Okay, the fourth thing is that implementing the budget could not be easier. This kind of goes back to seeing your budget in action, but you no longer have to wonder how much money is left in that category. Like if you haven't been tracking or sticking to how much, like every single time you make every single time, I need to slow down, that you try or you go out and you buy something, then you didn't write it down to track it, right? Then you would wonder, well, how much is left in that account? Well, I spent this and I spent this. And then you just kind of give up and you say, you know what, I don't care anymore. And it's just like, that's when the budget goes out the window, right? You're just like, okay, I'm done with the budget because it's hard to stick to. It's hard to follow through. It's hard to, actually know how much money I have in that account if I don't actually follow through and stick to the tracking process. And so not having to wonder how much is left in that category by just opening your app and seeing how much is in there, it just makes the implementation process so much easier because the amount in there is the amount that you got. And as you use it, you see it, the bank does the tracking for you, right? So you know where your money is going and what will be affected should you choose to pull money from a different account, right? Should you decide, oh, hey, this is important. I do need to buy this, or I really do want this, and I'm thinking I'm going to give into my want and my temptation because, we're human. We do that. We say, yeah, I want to do that. But then you physically have to pull money or decide to use a different card to buy that thing. And you know that by doing that, you know what it's affecting. You know if you're pulling it from your bill account. You know if you're pulling it from your groceries. You know if you're pulling it from your gas. Like, obviously, if you pull it from your bills, you could not be able to pay all your bills. If you pull it from your gas, then maybe you won't be able to get gas the next go around. That is what is there, and that helps bring that emotion back in and tells you whether or not you should do it or you shouldn't do it, right? And it's so nice to have that accountability in place that's not you yourself doing it. And it's just like, obviously, if you couldn't tell, I'm super biased about it and I super love it. Yeah, that makes so much sense. I'm struggling this morning. It's super windy around here and my allergies are just going crazy. So my brain is just like not all here right now. Sorry, just had to let you know that because I'm a little frazzled. Okay, back to budgeting and the digital cash envelope system. Okay, so then the fifth reason is that you have more than one card should something happen to one of them. So there have been times where I have been out on vacation traveling and there was fraud that happened on the card that we were using for our travel expenses. And we called the bank, we got it shut off, and then that meant that we didn't have a card to use, right? Well, instead of having to worry about, well, where am I going to get money from? Do I use a credit card? We don't have credit cards, by the way, so that's not even an option. And so we were able to just pick a different card, use a different account, transfer the money into that account and use it that way. Made it a little more difficult with the tracking of everything, right? But it also made it so that we were safe during that time. If you lose your card, you are able to, again, revert to a different card if you need to. It makes it a little tricky with tracking, but you know that you don't have to worry or stress about where that money's coming from or if you have to use a credit card. So if you're on vacation, sometimes your card doesn't work if you forget. So this is a thing. If you didn't know this, when you leave your state, you need to let your bank know, because most of the time they'll say, or the fraud company might jump in and say that it's fraud, even when it's not, and they'll turn your card off to keep that from happening. I've had that happen more than a few times because I didn't know about it. So definitely make sure that that's something that if that's what your bank likes to do, that you know about it. You no longer, like I've already said this, you no longer have to rely on a credit card. If that's not something that you want to do, you can cut it up and you will still have backups. And I do want to note here, though, that you do not have to have a card for every single account. I will have an episode on this in the future of how many accounts and how many cards you should have and all that such. But just know that you don't have to have a card for every single account. but it's still super nice to have the ability to have a few different cards so that you know that if something were to happen, you have a backup. Okay, and then I kind of do have a bonus. This kind of goes off of the fraud, but it just recently happened to me, and it was my saving grace that I even had my accounts separated, right? But it makes it harder for fraud to access all of your funds. Like I said, just recently, I was using my card online and I had transferred some funds over and then I forgot to transfer them back. And all of a sudden I look into my card and there's like $10 left. And this is my personal spending card and I don't usually spend that much money. And so I knew I should have at least $200 in that account. And I get to looking into it. And for like the past week or so, like I don't remember how long it had spanned because I got into my account multiple times, but not that specific account because like I said, I hardly ever use that account. And so I didn't look into it very often. And when I looked in there, there was so much fraud that happened. They ended up taking, I don't know, was it like $300 or $400 out of that account? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not okay. But if I wouldn't have had like my accounts separated and all of my funds in one location, just imagine how much more money they could have taken without me knowing, because I didn't get in very often and I didn't look at that specific account. And so the fact that there was a minute amount of money in there that they could take was so nice because, like I said, I didn't have to worry about them taking every single thing. Was it a nuisance and irritating that they took my personal fun spending money? Yeah, but it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world if I wouldn't have been able to get it back, right? Yes, the bank was able to credit me back and all that kind of stuff and put up a fraud complaint kind of thing, and they're out there searching for the person that did it. But if that wouldn't have been the case and that wouldn't have happened, it would not have affected my actual like system and taken from the things that were most important, right? The things like bills, like gas, groceries, that kind of stuff. We would have still been able to function and live. It just would have been a little bit less fun money for us. Okay. So that was an extra little bonus tip for you because I said 5 tips and that was the 6th one. But when it comes to why a single account doesn't work on one income, all of these reasons are why, because you get to see your budget in action on one single account. You don't get to see your budget in action. You don't have physical boundaries in place. You don't have an easy system to track your finances. Like you have to take action every single time you buy something and put that into some sort of tracker, whatever system that you like to use. You aren't able to implement your budget as easy because, again, you don't have those boundaries. You're not able to see what's actually happening. And if you lose your card, then you're SOL, right? Because you only have the one account and you don't have another account, and that's why you maybe have a credit card as a backup in case something should happen. But this allows you to be able to say, no, I don't want that credit card. I have other backups and I am safe. Like I don't have to worry about that. And it saves you from fraudulent activity happening in your main account and them able to access every single dollar and just drain it. Like I worked in a bank, I've seen that happen, and I don't want that to happen for you. So if you have an account that's specifically used for spending, especially online, then you don't have to worry about that happening, and you have backup cards if something should happen and you have to shut that card off. Okay. So I'm going to stop there with my rant because I could probably continue finding more great things about using a cash envelope system, but I'm going to stop there. And I just really hope and pray that this has opened your eyes to maybe trying out a cash envelope system. It does not hurt anything to open a few accounts, test it out, see what it does for you and your family, and move on from there. If you have multiple accounts in other banks, like in different banks, you can still utilize a cash envelope system. It may be a little bit more challenging and you may have a little bit more of a physical boundary in place, but it is still possible. Again, I will share more of that in a future episode because I do have one planned on the type of accounts you should open and how many you should open and how many cards you need and where you should open them. I will be having an episode on that in the future. But right now, I just really want you to understand why a cash envelope system is so amazing, especially for the one income family. Like, it does so many great things for you. And this is just a few of them. This is just a few of the things that I could keep rambling about, right? Okay, so with that, I do want to invite you real quick, if you want to stick to your budget, I want to invite you to grab a free clarity call and let's dive into what's holding you back. All you have to do is go to calendly.com/Molly Bunnell and you can book your call with me today. And just so you know, this is not something where you're going to get sold to 100%. Like, yes, I will tell you if I can help you with what we find and I will share with you how I can help you. But it is not a pressurized thing. Like, I'm not going to try to convince you to work with me because then you're not going to do very well with your budget. And I want you to succeed. I want you to thrive on it. I want you to be able to do your best. And if you are convinced to do something or if you are pressured and pushed into doing something, you just don't tend to do your best work, right? So I am not going to do that on the free call. Like, yes, I will say, hey, these are my options. If you would like to work with me, this is where you can grab them at if you want to, but I'm not going to pressure you into doing it. The most important thing that I want you to get out of this is to help you learn why you're struggling to stick to your budget, to maybe open your eyes to a few tips and tricks to make your budget work better for you, and then let you go and use it and come back and share with me your wins, right? Your takeaways. Come to the free Facebook group and tell me what you have learned and how it has like impacted you and your family's budget. So with that being said, you can go again to calendly.com/Molly Bunnell. That's calendly.com/Molly with a Y, B as in boy, ENELL. And I look forward to connecting with you in the future. And with that being said, I will see you right here next week on another episode of the One Income Family Podcast. Hey friend, I hope you enjoyed today's episode and I pray that it inspired you into action. If so, would you take 30 seconds and share it with that friend who also lives on one income and wants to learn how to live abundantly on less? Also, please leave a quick review for the show. It lights me up to know this podcast is helping you, and it helps get the show out there to other mamas in need. All right, well, it's time to go play with the babies, so I will meet you back here on Tuesday for another episode. Peace and chicken grease, mama.